video go viral on YouTube. It had 20,000 views overnight. Suddenly I started telling everyone someday I'll have my own TV show. And I don't know why I said those things. I don't know why I did those things. I don't know why I said those things. Delusions of grandeur. Delusions of
Suffocated her.
Hi, I'm a werewolf. We haven't made a video in so long, that's why we're really bonkers. Hey, get out of here. Well, anyway, this is our new video. It's called Halloween. Hey girl, post like Taylor.
The original vlogger is back in the house. My favorite holiday of the year is coming up, Halloween. And one of my favorite things about Halloween is horror movies.
This is called Movies I Like ads, okay? Like what you see here is like what Ghostbusters, right? Okay.
I've been cutting out horror movie ads from the newspaper and collecting them for over 30 years. Today we're going to take a look at some of them. Let's start out with some of the classics.
Here we have John Carpenter's The Thing and Halloween 2. What strange artwork. Wes Craven's A Nightmare on Elm Street. Joe Dante's The Howling. Tobe Hooper's Poltergeist and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre re-release from the 80s. Friday the 13th, Part 1. Part 2. And Part 3 in 3D.
Now let's take a look at some of the ads that really scared me when I was a kid.
Like blood-sucking freaks. Scanners where in 20 seconds you explode. Meet Andrew. The road to hell is paved with his victims and fear no evil. Some of the most horrible-looking Walking Dead ever in Lucio Fulci's Zombie. Terrible things with a shish kebab and Happy Birthday to Me. This is one of the ads that scared me the most. Midnight. Look at that horrible creature. If you have a weak stomach, don't come.
Now for some of the weird and more obscure ads in my collection.
Like Last Rites, and It Came Without Warning. The House on Sorority Row. And, playing at the Art Cinema, it's Vampire Lust. Ooh, how kinky. Of course, long before this scary movie series, we had Saturday the 14th. Occasionally we might get some out-of-town newspapers. Then I'd see some really strange ads like Eyeball and Suspiria. This ad says it's for the Paul Naschy horror movie Night of the Howling Beast, but since it says that John Ashley and Mary Wilcox are the cast members, that means it's actually an ad for Beast of the Yellow Night. You don't have to go to Texas for a Chainsaw Massacre with pieces. It's exactly what you think it is. This ad seems to be for the 30s horror movie Freaks, but if you look at the cast, you can tell it's from the 70s horror movie Frankenstein's Castle of Freaks, and it has some ad art from Andy Milligan's Tortured Dungeon. I always thought that this One Dark Night movie with Adam West from Batman must be pretty scary until I saw that it was rated PG. And there is no escape from the Boogans.
And speaking of the Boogans, one day in 7th grade science class, Brian Sexauer grabbed my folder and he wrote on it, "Nobody escapes from the Boogans." And on the back he wrote, "Norman Bates returned, Psycho 2. I cut horror movies out of the paper right up until they stopped printing them, which was about 2 years ago when I cut out this last ad for Silent House.
it'll be a mistake. I don't want this to be the last trip I take. I don't want to go to Camp Crystal Lake. There's nothing to fear but fear itself. There's nothing to fear but fear itself. I don't want to go to Camp Crystal Lake. I don't want to feel my bones start to break. I don't want to die before I wake. I don't want to go to Camp Crystal Lake. There's nothing to fear but fear itself. There's nothing to fear but fear itself. I don't want to go to Camp Crystal Lake. I don't want to be impaled on a rake. Don't want to be chopped up like a sirloin steak. I don't want to go to Camp Crystal Lake.
Sometime in late 1982, I became interested in the characters of Michael Myers from Halloween, Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th, and Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Even though I was only 12 and I had never really seen any of the movies, I knew that they were insane killers, and that was enough to make me want to write my own fan fiction featuring the characters. It's called Halloween Was on a Friday in Texas, alternately titled Devil's Night. The main characters are myself and my 7th grade classmate, but the story takes place many years in the future when we are adults. In the forest on Halloween in Texas on a Friday. We were going to get our fresh supply of marijuana from our hiding place. But when we got there, Jason, fully clothed in his hockey mask, was chasing us. We started to run the other way, but who was there but Michael, fully clothed in his white mask? So we ran to the side and leaped into our Lamborghini Countach 5000. But they had a Ferrari Dino. It was a race for our life. Captain Chaos from the movie The Cannonball Run appears just long enough to be run over by the killers. The first chapter ends with both cars going over a cliff, but we survive to meet up with our friend. In Chapter 2, the killers are joined by Leatherface, and they chase us on motorcycles. We saw a house in the distance. I said, "It looks deserted." Chip said, "Not only that, but it doesn't look like anyone's in it." As the story continued, many of my classmates saw what I was doing and asked to be written into it. In some cases, they would even tell me what their characters would do. In Chapter 5, Michael and Jason show up with a wrecking ball to knock down the hotel that we're staying in. We steal a police car to get away and meet 2 secret agents. In Chapter 12, Michael and Jason start killing people at a football game and throw a bomb to a football player instead of a football. In the next few chapters, there's a bunch of nonsense about bounty hunters, a double agent, and a murder rap. 8 more characters die, some only appearing briefly. Somehow, my friend Mike buys another Lamborghini. It's not explained where he gets the money. We decide to drive back to our original marijuana hiding place from the beginning of the story. We find that the area has now become a computer school. We decided to go in and ask the instructor where our marijuana was. In Chapter 21, Michael and Jason reappear with shotguns and kill most of the friends who are still with us. And in Chapter 22, a new maniac appears. The bloodthirsty killer from the movie Pieces. By this time, almost 2 years had gone by since I started writing the story. It was now late 1984. I was 14 years old and I was in high school. By Chapter 23, we're nearly broke and we're planning to rob a bank. But luckily, we meet up with Paid Vigilante. He gave us $500, a crossbow, a Grand Prix car, and 2 M16s. Chapter 24 is a major turning point in the story. Bob finds out that Michael and Jason are going to kill people at the Weird Al concert in Pittsburgh, so we fly to the show with Weird Al to protect him. When I first wrote this part of the story, I gave the role of Weird Al's roadie to a girl that I liked in school. Weird Al opens his show with the obscure song "I'll Be Mellow When I'm Dead." Suddenly, Michael and Jason appear with machine guns, killing Weird Al's fans. During the chaos, I kill the Pieces assassin, but Weird Al and I are both wounded by bullets. In Chapter 28, I recover, and we decide to go to Hawaii and learn the art of oriental self-defense from a cheap ninja. Michael and Jason attack with machetes. Michael's machete is struck by lightning, which knocks him unconscious, and we use this opportunity to decapitate him, ensuring that he is finally dead. In Chapter 29, we decide that we're going to take Jason down. It is now April, and over 5 months have elapsed in the story. We decide to borrow some money from a loan shark. But this is where the story ends. In the margin on the last page, it says, "Writer's block is what I've got." Apparently, I couldn't figure out what to write next, so I didn't write anything. The only clue to how it might have ended is back around Chapter 21. In the margin, I wrote, "Nuclear ending."
What's that in the murder garage? What's that in the murder garage? That's Fred! 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 You don't eat it, it eats you. 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 What's that in the murder garage? That's Fred! 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 That's Fred! What's that in the murder garage? That's Fred! That's Fred! What's that in the murder garage? That's Fred! That's Fred! What's that in the murder garage? That's Fred! That's Fred!
Somebody messed up my hair, which you're not allowed to do.
Oh, good.
You might remember it's against the law to mess up Paul Petrosky's hair. Because then he has to sit and comb it for about 5 minutes.
Yes, I got this bow and arrow. I'm gonna get him.
Hey, does anybody feel a draft in here?
It's that time of the year again. I love Halloween, and I have some special music and tapes that I like to listen to every year. One of them is the Count Floyd album. Count Floyd was a character played by Joe Flaherty on the television show SCTV. This EP came out in 1982, and it's a classic bad record. I always thought that Count Floyd's shtick was that he wasn't really funny. This album proves that in a so bad it's good way. Tracks include the love song Treat You Like a Lady, where the Count says his lover gave him a bad case of whooping cough, and Count Floyd is Back, a faked live recording where the guitarist tunes up on stage. The bad jokes have now stuck themselves in my brain, and I quote them on a regular basis. No Halloween is complete for me without a listen to the Ghostbusters soundtrack. There's really nothing like putting a portable tape player in your car, driving around the block, and blasting the theme song from your vehicle. I must also listen to some music by the Italian group Goblin. They're famous for doing movie soundtracks for films by Dario Argento like Suspiria and Deep Red. I usually spin this Argento Vivo album, which I paid $15 for in a Detroit record shop in 1991. I was on tour, and I splurged. Another great thing about Halloween is scary stories, and my favorites are by a guy named Judson Fountain. Judson Fountain, sometimes known as the Ed Wood of radio drama, created scary morality tales in the late 60s and early 70s that were sometimes played on radio stations. Judson would do the voices of most of the characters, which would usually include an 18-year-old boy.
I'll tell you, old man, I'm 18 years old. I got a lot of spending to do.
And a 35-year-old man.
I'm not a little boy, I'm 35 years old. I'm a man.
My favorite story is the terrifying tale of the garbage can from Thailand.
Oh no, that garbage can in front of my door. It's a garbage can I put the old man in. The garbage can from Thailand. How did it get here?
Our final selection today is the story of the Ghostbusters Meet the Laser Ghost. This tape originally came with a book, but I never had it. It's a story featuring the characters from the Ghostbusters animated TV show. The story is ridiculous, but even more ridiculous is the theme song. Spirits in the night. Something here ain't right. Makes you want to scream. Get a ghost-busting machine. Yeah, get a ghost-busting machine.
Of the vampire, for fear of the vampire, the vampire, the vampire, the vampire. Be careful as you walk the streets at night, for fear of the vampire.
I am willing to turn into a vat whenever I feel like it. No, watch out for me. They're gone. I'm back there. I'm out for your blood.
Back in June of 1990, I got this little Freddy Krueger doll. I bought him at Woolworths, and he must have been in the clearance bin because he was missing his hat. Here's a few that I got from cereal boxes. These Uncle Fester and Cousin It flashlights came from boxes of Addams Family cereal in 1991. And this plastic Frankenberry figurine was from General Mills monster cereals in the 70s. Let's move on to vampires. Here's a funny little wind-up vampire. I want to bite your neck. And a ball with a vampire face. I've got some classic vampire fangs. Do I appear at all menacing? Here's a really cool thing called a Dracubauble. I also have this Frankenbauble. Apparently, there were 8 different monster baubles. These were made by a toy company called Kusan. Here's a little tiny Frankenstein. Not so scary. Oh my, but here's a really big one. It's from 1986 and was made by Imperial Toys. They also made figures of Dracula, the Mummy, and the Wolfman. This Frankenstein came from the top of a tube of Snickers candy in 1995. The Milky Way tubes had the Mummy on them. This tiny Frankenstein head bucket was made by Easter Unlimited. The company is now called Fun World, and they specialize in holiday-themed toys. Wow, check out these Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein plastic glasses. Okay, do I appear at all menacing now? How about some Monster Faces stickers? Oh man, that's hideous. Oh, it must be time for a copyright infringement alert. In 2006, a company called Property of X1X Archives was selling these creepy classics toys. There's Frankenstein, King Kong, the Mummy, and the Werewolf. For the most part, they're based very closely on the trademarked movie monsters. And look how they are using the actual movie posters on the back of the packages. Maybe they thought they could get away with it if they were all holding baseball bats? Here's a really strange ceramic figurine. It's an orange mummy sitting on a house with a little gray cat. I've also got some fast food monsters. These good goblins came from Burger King in 1989. We've got Zelda Zoom Broom, Gordy Goblin, and Frankie Steen. Looks like he's lost his trousers. I also have this 1992 Wolfman cup from Pizza Hut. On the back, it says his nicknames are Wolfmeister and Wolferino. They also had cups featuring Dracula and Frankenstein. Here's an 80s witch Pez dispenser, and a 1987 Ghostbusters Bug-Eye Ghost from Kenner. Here's some funny little jack-o'-lanterns. Some of them are whistles, and some of them don't do anything. This little wind-up one is twerking. Is that scary? Huh? Last of all, I have this Dracula head candle. I got him in 1986, and I named him Schnell, after Ronnie James Dio's keyboard player, Claude Schnell. He made a number of appearances in our home movies whenever we needed a vampire. I've seen over 8,500 movies, and a good percentage of those have been horror movies. Let's take a look at some horror movie VHS boxes in my collection. First, we have some of the classics. Frankenstein and the Bride of Frankenstein, Dracula and the Wolfman, and The Invisible Man and the Mummy. I also have two different VHS releases of the movie Halloween. This one on media is from 1981 and is one of the first, and this one on Anchor Bay is from 1997 and was one of the last. Here's some more killers. We've got the Driller Killer, maybe the best rhyme in all of horror, and the Psychic Killer. It's a whole new kind of murder. Klaus Kinski as Jack the Ripper, and Mickey Rooney as the Manipulator. Day of the Maniac. We're still waiting for the sequel, Afternoon of the Maniac. Watch out, you might be either buried alive or eaten alive. Dream No Evil is a nightmare of unexpected terror, and Visions of Evil is a harrowing descent into madness. Let's look at some killer animals. With crocodiles, ticks, snakes, Zoltan the Hound of Dracula, and the monstrous Demon of Paradise. Even the vegetables, the fruits, want you dead. Here's some places that you might want to avoid. Don't go in the pit or the dark. Stay out of the dorm that dripped blood. When there's no more room in hell, you go to the other hell. Move away from the dwelling. And for God's sake, leave Cthulhu Mansion while you can. They got a whole mansion in the eye socket. That seems more appropriate for the house on Skull Mountain. Uh-oh, we might have a copyright infringement alert. This End Times horror movie was one of a series released by Mark IV Pictures. They totally ripped off the CBS Fox video box design on the front, back, and especially on the sides. Here's a couple that seem similar, Body Puzzle and the Jigsaw Murders. We've got the curse, and more specifically, the Amityville curse. I think that the curse is that they keep making sequels. This tape gives a whole new meaning to the phrase, a bad case of the jitters. Here's a few Draculas. The Japanese vampire movie Lake of Dracula, Count Dracula with the late Christopher Lee, Dracula's Last Rites, and Dracula vs. Frankenstein. Frankenstein looks pretty happy about it. Maybe he's thinking about Lady Frankenstein. What she does will shock you. Here's the She-Beast. Evil never dies, it just turns into a claw. And the Virgin Witch, which promises witchcraft and sex. Ooh, how kinky. Witchcraft 4, Witchcraft 5, Witchcraft 666, and Witchcraft 7. Now I know how to count. Here's Horror Express. You mad, bro? Some of the lousiest box art is on the really low-budget releases. The Snake People, that's scary. I don't know if I can handle Dr. Blood's coffin. Curse of the Devil and Man Beast. There's no room for you on Frankenstein's Island. He's taken up the whole thing. This Legacy of Blood box manages to be minimalist and disturbing. Let's finish up with some really obscure stuff. Two movies directed by Andy Milligan, Carnage and Surgikill. Here's a ridiculous box for Microwave Massacre. It used to have LEDs in it that lit up when you pressed the on button. One of the most infamous low-budget VHS companies was Ray Dawn. Here's Evil Below, Vampire, looks like a member of the band Kiss, and Curse of the Queer Wolf. Here's a Mexican VHS tape called Hallucination. It's actually the Mario Bava movie, The Whip and the Body. It's the strangest drawing of Christopher Lee I've ever seen. This is one of my favorites. Holy Wednesday! Neither the cover art nor the title gives you the slightest clue what this movie is about.
My name is Weird Paul, came here to rock.